So tickets are officially on sale for the big super junior in between sort of kind of but not really middleweight fight between Saul, Canelo Alvarez and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. in Cinco de Mayo weekend in Las Vegas at T-Mobile Arena. And damn is it overpriced. Whoa! Talk about doing it for the fans, right? Not many hardcore boxing fans are going to be able to afford to go to this one. I tweeted out an image today. I just went on StubHub, just a regular place, and looked up tickets in all the different sections. And I tweeted out the image where tickets in the upper bowl were over $1,000. They were starting around $700-800 when you factor in all the fees and stuff like that. And those got gobbled up quick. Those will get gobbled up quick. And then if you go down to the lower bowl, the tickets go from anywhere from like $1,000 to $4,000. And then on the floor, you're talking $5,000 to $10,000. So when you look at the prices for these tickets, and remember, there was briefly some talk that they were maybe going to take this fight to at&t Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, he's a big boxing guy. He really wanted to fight. He was willing to put up a ton of money. Man, he must have put up a substantial offer if Golden Boy Promotions still took it to Vegas and is pricing tickets like this. Because you have to remember, at Vegas, you're getting site fees and all kinds of stuff on top of the bloated ticket prices. But man, just doing some math in my head, T-Mobile has about 20,000 seats for boxing. I think for most events, that's pretty much where it caps out at, about 20,000. And just rounding, if $2,000 was the average ticket price for this fight, which it won't be. It's going to be more than that. But rounding low, being conservative, $2,000 average ticket, 20,000 tickets sold. Let's say this thing sells out. I do think it will. You're talking $40 million in revenue just from the ticket sales. That would put this fight at number 2 all time as far as the all-time boxing gate records in Nevada, I think in America. Number 1, of course, was Mayweather-Pacquiao, the money grab of the century. Number 2 right now was Mayweather-Canelo back in 2013. That did a gate of about 20 million. This is going to double that. This is going to double that. So, man, it just boggles the mind how wrong they could get this stuff. Now, look, if your goal is to make money, cool, you're going to do that. But if your goal is to put out a product that the die-hard boxing fans can afford, you're really, really failing. And this kind of just shows where the motivation and the priorities are. You know, sticking with that whole thing, most die-hard fans can't go to Vegas. It's too expensive anyway. Now Vegas charges for parking and shit. So they're going to have to order the pay-per-view. If this thing does 500,000 pay-per-view buys, and I think it will. Canelo did, 300,000 against Liam Smith last year? So this is going to at least do 500,000 buys. When you factor in the math, it's going to be at least $80 a pop. Don't be surprised if it's more than that. Nothing would surprise me at this point. If it's $100 for the damn pay-per-view, wouldn't surprise me. But let's just say $80. $80, 500,000 pay-per-view buys. That's 40 million, right? That gets cut in half with the cable or the pay-per-view provider. So 20 million is kept. So 20 million right there on top of the 40 million at the gate. Then you factor in site fees, sponsorships, merchandise sales, foreign TV money. The foreign TV money from Mexico is going to be huge. This is going to be a $75 million card, right? Now, there's a few different theories going around why Golden Boy went this route. Are they cashing out before going to Gennady Golovkin? Or are they making so much money on this card it's going to justify them not fighting Gennady Golovkin? Maybe that's a scenario, right? Are they doing this to have a bargaining chip for negotiations with Golovkin? Are they going to use this as a power play? Like, hey man, we just did a $75 million card against Chavez Jr. at a catchweight for no title. Although the WBC did mention today, Mauricio Suleiman said that there would be a commemorative WBC belt, especially for this fight. So there will be a title on the line, casuals. There will be a title for you on the line. But there's no real title on the line in this fight for actual diehard boxing fans and media that follow this sport religiously. We know what this fight is. But Golden Boy, if they bring in $75 million in revenue, can go to K2 and Golovkin and say, look, man, what the hell are you putting together? You know, don't be surprised if they want an 80-20 split or something like that. Because, look, Golovkin, obviously, next month, he's fighting Daniel Jacobs in Madison Square Garden. That seats about 20,000, I believe. But those tickets are priced from $100 to $1,000. And I believe half of the tickets, 10,000 tickets, are 200 or less. So if the average ticket price, even if we inflated it, okay, and said the average ticket price for that fight was $500, which it's not, it's nowhere near that, but let's just say 20,000 tickets, boom, that's 10 million bucks. So it's not even going to bring in 10 million bucks at the gate. And then the pay-per-view, let's be generous and say it does 250,000 buys, 80 bucks a pop, that's 20 million, cut in half, $10 million. So this is probably, you got to factor, there's going to be merchandising. The last time Golovkin was at the Garden, they set a record for merchandise sales, so that will do well. The foreign TV money over in Europe and everything will do pretty well. This is probably going to be a $20, $25 million card. So now you can see where the economics of this thing comes into play. And if Golden Boy Promotions and Canelo Alvarez are serious, should they be successful against Chavez Jr., if they are serious about fighting Golovkin, and if Golovkin is successful against Daniel Jacobs, those are not gimmies. Neither one's a gimme. But if they are successful and they come to the table to start negotiating this summer, that 25-75 split, possibly 80-20 split, that's going to be where it's at. And for Golovkin and his side, they're going to have to be reasonable. They always have been in the past. But for Golden Boy's side, they're going to have to be reasonable as well. And if you're talking about 90-10 split, or you're saying, look, we made so much money with the last fight, we don't even need to fight you. Fuck you. We're going to move to super middleweight and fight guys, whoever we want, and charge crazy, crazy fees because we can. They could move up to 168 and fight Gilberto Ramirez if they wanted to at the end of the year and probably do big, big business, right? So it's hard to see exactly where they want to go here. But my personal belief, because I'm still holding out hope that Canelo is successful in this fight and that he trains the right way and weighs in at 160 pounds flat. He trains as a middleweight for this fight with Chavez, and that Golovkin is successful against Jacobs. And then maybe they take an interim bout in the summer. Of course, a lot of people are talking about the possibility, the real possibility that Golovkin could be fighting Billy Joe Saunders in Kazakhstan over the summer. That could happen. But both guys come out successful. They negotiate something in the summer, and we still get that big, big fight later in the year. The biggest fight in boxing, Canelo Golovkin. I'm still holding out hope, and I think this whole thing is a means of making as much money as you can up front before that really, really tough fight. I think it's a bargaining chip power play to show just how big and powerful and impressive you are and how much money you can make compared to Golovkin, who's a fan favorite of diehard boxing fans, but not a crossover. Not that Canelo's a full crossover, but he's such a huge brand in Mexico and among Mexican-American fight fans. He is a crossover in those demographics. So both guys are probably the same, about as popular with the typical American media and typical American casual sports fan. Golovkin might even be more popular because he speaks English. Canelo does, he just doesn't like to in public, but obviously Canelo has a massive brand behind him, right? And it all started, well, it started before he fought Mayweather, but the Mayweather fight is what took him to a higher level. And Golovkin just hasn't had that high-profile fight yet that's bumped him up. The Canelo fight would be that, hopefully. But man, just getting back to the ticket sales. Guys, I tweet out a lot, and I write about this a lot, and I opine about it a lot in the podcast I call into and guest on, and in my own stuff on my channel. I hate when big fights go to Vegas all the time. And some of you will come back to me and say, man, Vegas has supported boxing for decades. It's really, really given American boxing its biggest platform. And really all of boxing globally, Vegas is still the hot ticket. I get that. And I appreciate that. But guys, it's a changing world. And boxing has to adapt with the times. And you go back to the 80s, some of those Caesar's Palace fights and stuff like that. Regular fight fans could afford those tickets. A family of 4 or something, or a group of friends or something could drive from, I don't freaking know where, Arizona or some shit, and afford a couple of nights in a hotel there and afford drinks and all that shit and tickets to the fight. It is set up differently now. And T-Mobile isn't even a damn casino. Now it's owned by a casino. The MGM Grand executives are, right there across the street. They own it. So it's kind of an offshoot of a casino. It's an extension of one. But technically, it's not even a damn casino. And fans are getting priced out of tickets. And it seats 20,000. You would think they'd want to fill that damn thing up. But it's obvious that for certain promoters, that arena is just another bigger casino to overprice the shit out of when they have a big ticket event there. I just think we need more big fights in stadiums. And I know some of you guys have said that actually going to a fight at a really big stadium isn't all it's cracked up to be. I get you. I understand that sitting in a massive football stadium where there's a tiny little ring in the middle isn't always the most feasible for a boxing match, because some of the guys up in the nosebleeds, you don't get the best view. I appreciate that. I understand that. But at&t Stadium in Dallas, Texas has the biggest Jumbotron up above the field. It's like the biggest TV in the world. There's not a bad seat in the house. Manny Pacquiao had 2 fights there. Very successful. Canelo's had a fight there. Very successful. The fights, the fans that sat up in the nosebleeds will tell you they had a perfect view and it was a great time because of the atmosphere, the energy, because real diehard fight fans, people who watch this sport every week, people who watch Showbox, PBC on Bounce, people who watch cards like that, could actually afford to go to those fights in a real city, a regular place, not Vegas. We need more big fights to go to venues like that. Even if it's a smaller place like last week in Toledo, that PBC on Bounce card I just talked about, that was 10,000. It wasn't a sellout, but it was 10,000 regular fans in an arena in Toledo, Ohio, right? With a hometown fighter. We need more of that. Now, Chavez Jr., Canelo Alvarez, neither one of them are from Texas, but guess what? They're not from Las Vegas either, okay? And a lot more of their fans, proximity-wise, whether they be American or Mexican coming from Mexico, Texas is close. It's right there on the border. And it just makes so much sense to put the fight there. But 100,000 tickets there doesn't bring in the money that 20,000 tickets at T-Mobile Arena brings in. It's crazy. And that tells you who's going to be attending this fight. It's going to be real diehard fans attending this fight. And all the boxing fans that really do pony up the money and spend their Christmas savings in May to go to this damn fight. How much money are they going to have left at the end of the year to buy the other pay-per-view cards we're going to have? If we do get Canelo Golovkin, if we do get Kovalev Ward Part 2, if we do get some of these other fights that we're hoping we get, the people running this sport don't get it. And we're running out of time. Every time they do something like this and put out a fun event that means, it doesn't mean shit, but it's a fun event, and gouge fans, few more fans trickle over to UFC, where they do the same shit to their fans, just at a much smaller scale. Their fans get gouged too, but they're not being charged $800 for a nosebleed seat to a fight that means nothing. Doesn't happen. So I just had to rant about this, because this is what I'm talking about when I say that the big fights going to Vegas are pushing fans out of this sport.